Hi everyone, I hope you all are great. Today we will have prefix and suffix. So basically, we're just continuing the chapter because we started it last week. So you have to log in using the apostem.com. Click on your name, move on to language at the grade 5. So we've done like 3 lessons under. We will complete like 3 more today. Words with miss, words with this, in, im, and none, words with full. Okay. Hi, I hope you're fine. So we'll start now. Okay, so prefix can be added to the beginning. So they're basically added to the beginning of a base word. Okay. So once they're added to the beginning of the base word, they create a new word. Okay. That's what prefix are. So basically, base words are like the main words that we already have. Okay. So it could be a word like peer, right? And then if we're adding a prefix, we will say what? Repair, add re to the beginning. So for an example, okay? So that's like the base word. The base word is the main original word that we have before we add the prefix to it. So you just have to note that prefix are added at the beginning. So knowing the meaning of a prefix can help you determine the meaning of a word. Okay, so the prefix means incorrectly or badly. So that's what the prefix means. So we are working with miss and it means incorrect or badly. Okay, so it's very important for you to know the meaning of the prefix so that it can be very easy, okay, to understand the meaning of the new word that has been created. So let's look at some examples here. We have, okay, we have which book about Earth and Mars has been mistitled? So we have mistitled, right? So this is mistitled. All right. Now, what is the base word here? Titled is the base word here. Okay, and then when you add miss, it becomes mistitled. Okay, so we have what? One called stars, which are less likely to be misinterpreted. Clear instruction. So if you have a clear instruction, it's less likely that you will misinterpret it. How could a news report misrepresent an event? By leaving out important details. Okay, so let's move on to the test. So, which type of behavior shouldn't cause mistrust? Suspicious behavior or honest behavior? So, we have honest behavior. Okay, if you're honest, it wouldn't cause a mistrust. Which result is misspent? Okay, so which result in misspent time? Doing something important or doing something unnecessary? Oh, right. So we have doing something unnecessary will result in a misspent time. How could a news report misrepresent an event? By leaving out important details or by giving too much details? So we have what? By leaving out important details. Okay. So which is a common misspelling of two? First to second. So we have the first, that's the most misspelling of two. Which are less likely to be misinterpreted? Clear instruction or unclear instruction? Okay, so we have clear instructions. What would you expect to happen if a letter had a misprint in its address? It would arrive at the wrong place, it would arrive at the correct place. So it will arrive at the wrong place if it has a misprint in its address. Okay, so we have what has been mistaught: a student who was told Canada is a state, or a student who was told Florida is a state. So a student who was told Canada is a state has been mistaught. Alright, that's it for words with miss. We'll move on to the next one. Okay. So if you haven't done this, you have to make sure that you try to complete this, okay? So we have what with on, this, in, im, and non. Okay, so these are also like prefix, and we know that prefix are added to the beginning to create a new word. Okay, once you add it to the beginning, it creates a new word. All right. So knowing the meaning of a prefix can help you determine the meaning of a word. Now, the meaning of all these prefix here usually mean not or the opposite of. So whether we have on, this, in, im, none, all of these mean words not or opposite of. Okay, so that's the meaning of this prefix. If they're added to the beginning of a word, it simply means what's not or opposite of. Okay, so let's look at some sentence. Which is a non-chemical method for cleaning a floor? So we have non-chemical method would be what's using a broom and a dustpan, obviously. Now, which is disrespectful? Forgetting to say please and thank you. That's obviously disrespectful. When is a puzzle incomplete? When it is missing a piece. Okay. So why might you feel disconnected from friends? Because you haven't heard from them in a while, or because you've been spending a lot of time with them? Why would you feel disconnected? So we feel disconnected because we haven't heard from them in a while. So the first one, okay. So which is an uncivilized person? What is an uncivilized person likely to do? Say excuse me or drink water. So we have say excuse me, which is non-living, a plant or mineral. So we have what? Mineral. When are you likely to have a disagreement with someone? When you share the same opinion or when you have different opinion? So when are you likely to have a disagreement? When you have different opinion. That's when you're likely to have a disagreement. Which country is more independent? One that controls itself or one that is controlled by another country? Okay, so we have one that controls itself. So When is a puzzle incomplete? When it is missing a piece or when all of its pieces are in place? Okay, so when it is missing a piece, it is incomplete. When is a story nonsense? When it sounds reasonable or when it could not possibly be true? Okay, so when it could not possibly be true. Okay. So moving on to the last lesson that we have today. Of course, you have to complete this one if you haven't done it as well. So we have words with full, and this is the suffix. Okay. Hmm. So now suffix is different from prefix. So suffix are added to the end of the base word. Okay. So while prefix are added at the beginning, the suffix are added at the end. Okay. So of course, once they're added to the end, it creates a new word. All right. The suffix full means having, showing, or causing. All right. So when you're having or showing or causing, so that's what the suffix full mean. Okay. And it's basically added to the end of the base word, and it's very important for us to note the meaning. Okay. So which is a more thoughtful way to make a decision? Writing out the pros and cons. So if you want to make a decision, you have to make sure you write out the good and the bad. So who is heedful of danger? Okay, so someone who is cautious is heedful of danger. Whose performance is more likely to be described as artful? A professional violinist. Okay, move on to the test. You can share your answers with me. Okay, all right. How does a dutiful student do his homework? Thoroughly or carelessly? So a dutiful student to do his homework thoroughly. Okay. If you had an eventful day, how might you describe it? Exciting or boring? So we have what? Exciting. Okay. Why might someone be boastful? Because he is upset or because he is proud? Okay, so because he is proud, he'll be boastful. Okay. Which is a more thoughtful way to make a decision? Making a random choice or writing out the pros and cons? Okay, so writing out the pros and cons. So, whose performance is more likely to be described as artful? A professional violinist or an amateur violinist? Which of them? So we have the first one. All right, so who is less skillful? A professional athlete or an amateur athlete? So less skillful is an amateur athlete. All right, that's it for our lesson today on the prefix and suffix. If you haven't done the three lessons that we did today, you have to try to complete that. Before we end, can you tell me if you have any questions? All right, so since we have no questions, we'll end here. Bye, everyone. See you all next time.